Well, good morning folks, long time no see. Back to the bike, it's back to the bike again. Great to be out, can't tell you, this is my second ride. My last ride was just to get the bike MOT'd, get it registered. The bike has been sawned over the summer for reasons I'll tell you about. And after you've sawned the bike and if it's run out of its MOT, the first thing you do is you ring up the MOT testing station, tell them you're coming. Second thing, you ride there, you get your MOT, and then you get yourself off to the post office to tax your bike again. Anyway, that's all details, because I guess you'll want to know why you haven't been hearing from me. Well, it's a long story. I'll try and keep it to the headlines. So I was in the garden on the 23rd of March. We just had a period of very high winds, and probably like many of you, damaged some of our fence posts. Fences have been blown over. So there I was trying to remove a concrete fence post out of the ground, and suddenly my started to feel quite faint, started to feel quite ill. And so sat down on the garden bench and went inside. My wife called an ambulance, and about 18 minutes later found myself in the accident and emergency unit in the hospital, surrounded by lots of people, one of whom was a cardiologist. And I spent the next 18 days on one of the 4 critical care beds on the Dryden ward in Northampton General while they tried to work out what the problem was. And it turns out I've got a very rare heart condition, affects between 1 in 2 and 1 in 5,000 people. And effectively your heart turns to fat. So the muscle, the protein, over a period of time will turn to fat. So there's obviously a longer term problem there, but the short term issue is that what can happen is that your heart's natural pacemaker, what makes your heart beat, you know, so for most of you that's beating sort of 60, 70, 80 beats a minute, gets all messed up, and you go through these electrical storms. And what I hadn't realised was on that particular day was that my heart had raced up to 240 beats a minute, where it stayed for an hour and 40, and I should have died. But by the grace of God, I didn't. There were people all over the world praying for me as I went into hospital on that day. So I'm back with you. And during that period of my stay in hospital, I had 2 procedures. One which was to fit a stent in my heart, which is essentially like a sort of a very thin metal tube which holds the let's get past this guy, shall we? Which holds the wall of an artery open. But that wasn't the cause of the problem, actually. That was just a bit of general maintenance. The second issue then obviously is the electrical performance of my heart. So basically at any point my heart can go into what they call a tachycardia, and the tachycardia is essentially where your heart rhythm just basically starts to race. And those of you who follow cricket in the UK might have followed the career of a young man called James Taylor, who was just basically broken into the England Test squad. Was doing very well, extremely fit, and he was diagnosed with this condition and essentially ended his career. And the footballers, there's a guy called Fabrice Muamba, who was attended I think at White Hart Lane a couple of years back, and I've got the same condition. It's called ARVC. So there is no cure. So they basically put you on a cocktail of drugs to control the beating of your heart. But secondly, if that fails, then they implant a defibrillator in your chest. So I've got a defibrillator high up on my left breast. £13,000 worth of equipment with 2 wires, one into the upper part of my heart, one into the lower part of my heart, which measure its electrical performance. And if there's a problem, then the defibrillator kicks in. So it's got 3 functions. Number 1 is just to monitor. So I'm actually wired up via Bluetooth, would you believe, to a device that sits in my bedroom, which is constantly monitored by the hospital. Secondly, if my heart starts to exceed a certain threshold in terms of beats per minute, then the ICD, the implantable cardio defibrillator, can tickle your heart and basically just trick it into dropping back down to a normal speed. But if none of the above work, then it can zap you. It can hit you with quite a big voltage, and you've probably some of you might have actually been on the receiving end of a cardio defibrillator. So this is basically a kind of thing you see on these TV programs where they stick 2 metal plates on your chest and they stand back and hear a whining sound and you get bumped basically. So anyway, I've got my own built-in one now. So because of that, the DVLA, the Driving and Vehicle Licensing Authority in the UK, means you have to surrender your licence for 6 months. And I can tell you it's been a long 6 months, and that 6 months actually turned into 7.5. So the cardiologist has now declared me fit. Has to be then checked out by DVLA. They've got to do their checks and balances and so forth. So here we are. So about a week and a half ago, got the MOT. Well, first of all, I got the driving licence, so I did a little dance around the room. You've no idea how long that 7.5 months was. They say time is relative, don't they? But it was a long time, and probably one of the most challenging periods in my life, and still is actually, if I'm honest. But here I am, as I said, by the grace of God. And thank you to those of you who've expressed concern during this time, just inquiring where I am and am I okay, and has the channel finished? Well, no, the channel hasn't finished, because the channel is a diary of who I am. But to be honest, I wasn't out on the bike and I just wasn't really well enough to comment. So, but I'm back now, back on the bike. So back to the bike comes back to the bike again. So it'd be great to hear from you. Obviously entering a new chapter. I'm off to the NEC on, I think, on Wednesday to Motorcycle Live, because one of the things I now need to do is I now need to shop for a new bike. The RT is absolutely brilliant, it's perfect in every way. I bought it at 3,500 miles almost exactly 2 years ago. It's now got 11,000 on the clock, and she's beautiful. But I think, if I'm honest, one of the original plans I had when I bought the bike was that I was going to be doing some touring, and the whole plan actually for 2019 was to tour and get up to the lakes and the North Yorkshire moors, and maybe even get into Scotland or maybe the southwest of England down to Cornwall. And I think I've got to be realistic now that to maybe those long distance tours maybe are less of what I'm going to be focusing on. And so I think, also in consultation with my biking mentor, my biking dad, Seafly Fisher. Check out his YouTube channel for his excellent instructional videos. I need something that's going to be a little bit more, well, my next stage on biking really is to be able to sort of get into my cornering a little bit better. So I'm looking for something basically, I want to shed a little bit of weight. So this, the RT weighs 265 kilos. And to be honest, once you're riding like I am now, you know, even at sort of 2 or 3 miles an hour, not a problem at all. But it's just putting it into the garage and just general lugging it around. So I may keep it. That decision isn't finally made yet, but I am seriously thinking of selling it. So if there is anybody out there who's interested, who wants to make me a sensible offer. So buy sensible offer, take a look on Auto Trader. The bike's a 2016 plate, it's basically fully loaded, it's got absolutely everything on it. It's got these speaker grills here. The only thing it doesn't have is actually the hi-fi system, but everything else is on it. So it's actually an SE, but actually it does have the LE specification, has everything on it, and it's got a few other extras on, like fender extenders and front and back and knee pads and so forth. So she's a beautiful machine. I can leave these mirrors on as well if anybody wanted those. So yeah, so if you are interested, so by sensible offer, what I mean is take a look at Auto Trader's prices. And this bike, I've checked, is selling at the moment on BMW forecourts for 11,500. Obviously they're going to give you a 12-month warranty, so I'm happy to take less than that as long as it's sensible. So let me know what you think. And meanwhile, I'm going to go window shopping and see what's out there, and discuss it with my mentor, and see what the future holds. So I think that'll do for today. So great to be in touch with you again, and I'll keep the videos coming. So goodbye for now, God bless, and let's hear from you in the comments. Just a PS, by the way, on to add on, which is a huge thank you to the staff of the Northampton General Hospital, in particular the Dryden ward, the heart care unit, the cardiologists, Doctors Binns and Cox, Sharman, Mo, Dr. Pedersen. You know you are, so thank you very, very much. And also at the genetic counselling unit, the cardiology unit at the John Radcliffe, Oxford as well. Thank you so much. I'm indebted to you.